AI has been talked about over and over again recently. It's no secret that many people have absurdly differing ideas and assumptions on AI, and anything thought to be slightly controversial gets shot down with criticism immediately. I, however, would like to argue something very controversial, and that's the idea that I think AI could actually be useful, seriously and professionally, in creative fields. Now, before you go and run off saying that I'm some heretic that should be burned at the stake, hear me out. I'm not trying to say that AI should, or even that it could, replace us as humans in these creative fields. Quite the opposite, actually. What I'm trying to argue specifically is the capability of AI to create. With its proven use in collaborative creativity, constant advancements in its power, and its potential to grow even stronger than it is currently, I think that it could be a valuable tool for both creators and consumers. To properly understand the complexities and intricacies of AI generation, we should first understand how AI works. The type of AI that most people talk about when referring to creation would be deep learning models of generative AIs. These AIs use a process called neural networks. You may have heard of this term before or even already know how it works, but I'd like to go over it just for the sake of clarity. Neural networks are designed to copy the human brain with specific neurons and synapses that control how specific input is interpreted and creates an output. These networks are typically trained on thousands of data points, with the most correct outputs being reinforced and being punished for incorrect outputs. There's a lot, and I mean a lot, of calculus used to determine how the network will change and adapt based on its performance, as well as some randomization to influence any possible positive changes we would otherwise miss. Larger models, such as ChatGPT, Midjourney, and DALL-E, typically use massive databases created off of material found on the internet. We'll get back to the ethics of that later. Whether it be books, art, music, videos, or movies, these AIs are trained on millions of samples in order to properly function for commercial use. Between each neuron, there is a weight and bias to alter the input. This effectively is just the same as an equation of a line, with the weight being the slope and the bias being the y-intercept of the line. With these changes compounding with each neuron, the network becomes very unpredictable. Surprisingly, most companies and developers don't even know how their AI works or gets to the results it does. On a very basic level, an AI is trained by thousands of data points in a very little time by taking each point as an input, and the resulting output is graded on a certain level of accuracy. The more accurate the correct answer is, the less that it is changed about the weights and biases of each digital neuron. In effect, when generating something, the AI basically bounces around the general ideas of its training data and creates something that it thinks your input is describing. If you're generating an image, it'll create an image based on what it was trained with. So if you're trained on only photos, it'll likely be more realistic. If it was trained on cartoons, the image would likely have a more unidentifiable cartoon style. If it's trained on a very specific type of data, it will excel in that area and will be very, very, very bad at anything else. Imagery is just one example. This idea applies to any forms of creation, whether it be video, audio, or even writing. Not all applications of AI are completely standalone. One of the most effective ways that AI can be used is in collaboration with people. This is something that you may have even done yourself, that is, if you use generative AI. It's a very simple process and can be done for almost any form of creation. The only issue I have with it is the possible bias introduced by the AI's training data into the resulting responses. In this section, my main source of information comes from a small research group from the University of Hong Kong, focusing on the topic of human-AI collaboration. In their article, it felt like having a second mind. The article is a bit dense, however, I would recommend you read it sometime if you're curious about this kind of thing. I'll have this article as well as all of my other sources properly cited in MLA in the description. One of the most important parts that AI can help with is the beginning stages of creativity, mainly the ideation stage, as the aforementioned article calls it. The ideation stage is fairly self-explanatory, being the initial brainstorming stage. Many people suffer from block when attempting to create something, and having AI as a tool to help push you in the right direction can be one of the greatest tools for a creator. I myself have used creative prompts for art pieces, coding ideas, or even song ideas. Personally, I rarely ever actually end up using the results, however, it is very helpful in just getting the thoughts flowing and creative juices to start running or something. Another aspect of the creative process that the article mentions is the implementation stage, being the stage in which a person actually begins to apply the idea to their selected media. Basically, this is the point where you actually do the thing that you're trying to do. When it comes to this stage, AIs can be helpful to give you push in the right direction. Maybe you're stuck with how to portray a certain concept, or maybe need help better understanding how to form the proper wording for a sentence. And the best part is you don't actually have to take this advice. You could completely throw the idea out a window and delete the AI from existence, never to be seen again. Or you could also just take the advice if you think it's helpful. AI can also be helpful by thinking in ways you may not have originally considered. It can offer varying perspectives on a multitude of topics, as well as provide some valid points for any new viewpoints. Now, you shouldn't take everything that it says as complete the truth. There are many examples of AIs, such as ChatGPT, being factually incorrect. Again, I want to reiterate that you should not use AI as a replacement for human creation. All I'm saying is that AI has great potential for the future of creativity. Many people disagree with the idea of advancing AIs, not just for the over-paranoid reasons of, oh, AI is going to take over the world or something like that. I mean, they probably will at this point, but it's out of our control, and that's not the point I'm making today. There are some valid concerns for the continued development of AI. One major concern that people have is the idea of deepfakes. As I'm sure you know, deepfaking is when somebody creates a false image, audio, or video of a person using AI. This is typically done with ill intent, and while this is a highly valid concern against AI, sadly there is really nothing we can do about it. Photoshop has already been around for years now, providing uncertainty in any photo you see on the internet. While it does require more skill than using AI to generate these fakes, it's been something that we've been knowledgeable about and already given us caution on the internet. Having fake content on the internet is nothing new, plus at this point in AI's development, it would be nearly impossible to prevent people from using the technology. I think that AI's positives also outweigh its negatives. Even outside of creativity, it would be very useful to allow AI to advance, as it's something that we could likely give menial and dull tasks that people don't want to do to begin with. Another problem that people have with AI is the attempt of people to pass off AI creations as their own. The problem of copyright has been around for decades, however this problem is very unique as the original creator of the content cannot properly claim it as their own. As a result, people improperly crediting AIs for their artwork may result in an overflow of fake content in online art communities. In order to generate all this content, what data were they trained on, you may ask? Millions of pieces of artwork posted online by real people. Naturally, this in and of itself creates a ton of controversy. Many people believe that their unconsented use of training data in turn makes any art generated by these AIs to be copyright infringement. This is a completely valid concern and perspective on the topic. It's commonly agreed upon that the training data used has at least some influence on the results generated by AI. Another concern I hear every so often is the idea that the use of AI in creative media results in a decline in creativity among people. The basic idea is that if we rely on AI to create, we won't create ourselves, and our ability to create won't be as good or effective anymore. And this has actually been proven. The less a person uses their creativity, the less creative a person becomes. And I completely agree that an over-reliance on creative AIs would result in a decline in creativity. However, I'm not too keen on saying that it is currently declining as a result. Despite these disagreements among communities, I do feel obligated to point out the flaws in their arguments. As time has gone on and AI has developed, the need for AI detectors has increased exponentially. The development and accuracy of these AIs is actually fairly impressive. They're not 100% foolproof, but recently they've gotten fairly accurate with their detection, specifically in literature. There are also different AI detection tools for other forms of media, such as photos or audio, with varying degrees of success. Many companies have actually invested in the detection of deepfakes and AI-based fraud. The effectiveness of most of these tools can be a bit wonky, but they work mostly. It's also very hard to judge whether or not public-based training data actually infringes on copyright. The creation process of AI is not unlike the human process. Both generally bounce around pre-existing ideas and somewhat remix them into quote-unquote new ideas. There's a whole philosophy concept questioning if anything is truly originally created. The issue of accreditation is something both fairly simple and complex. It's simple in the sense of, in both professional and personal use, you follow simple pre-established criteria for citing AI, including things such as prompts, results, what AI you used, and how you may or may not have changed the results. The complexities begin when people simply just don't. When somebody doesn't cite AI as the source, it can become fairly hard to properly know if they did or did not use it. Sure, certain cases are very obvious, like when somebody just generates a pure image with AI, but when AI is used more as a collaborative tool, it is actually very hard to detect its use, as there is a lot more human component to the piece. As mentioned prior, there is a concern that the heart of creativity could be heavily diminished by the use of AI. Many people believe that the use of AI could result in a decline of human creativity. The fact that it takes less skill to use and does almost everything for you creates a lot of controversy. I can't exactly put my finger on it, but this argument feels very similar. Alright, it's the exact same argument people made against digital art. They claim that the use of digital erasers, brushes, undo buttons, and all these tools takes less effort and results in much lower need for personal creativity. However, as you can probably tell, this argument is simply untrue with digital art. People have created beautiful artworks using these tools, and since then it has become a mostly respected form of visual art. The same argument can be applied to AI, with it simply being a tool if used correctly. Yes, an over-reliance on AI would result in very negative drawbacks, however the majority of skilled artists would simply either not use it, or likely use it in mediation and in collaboration. After discussing all of this, my main point is simply that AI gets overlooked far too much. If we can acknowledge the fact that AI can be used in moderation to effectively collaborate with human creativity, it can become an effective tool for creatives all around the world. Yes, it can have its drawbacks, but it's been shown that at a point that we are right now, either the negatives are simply unavoidable, with deepfakes and improper accreditation, or they are very easily avoidable, being the loss of creativity and skill. By no means am I saying that by acknowledging AI's creative potential, you or anybody has to use it. Many people will likely choose specifically not to. However, if we do recognize the potential AI has, it can open the creative world to many new people and enhance the capabilities of already skilled creatives.